You've been staring at the same decision for weeks. Lists made, opinions gathered, research done, but you still can't decide. Is this strategic thinking, or is this your nervous system calling the shots?
Did you know that trauma impacts how we navigate our careers, but most career advice ignores this reality? Imagine feeling confident and safe at work while honoring your healing journey. Welcome to your Trauma Wise Career Guide, the podcast that reimagines career development for trauma survivors. I'm your host, Cindy Bennett, a trauma survivor turned trauma-informed career coach and founder of the Resilient Career Academy. If you're navigating your career while honoring your healing journey, you are in the right place.
Welcome back to your Trauma Wise Career Guide. I'm Cindy Bennett, and today we're diving into a question that comes up constantly for trauma survivors building businesses or navigating career decisions. How do you know when you're being strategic versus when you're stuck in a trauma response? This matters because the answer determines what you actually need: more information or support for your nervous system. Here's what makes this so confusing. The external behaviors can look identical. Strategic caution and trauma-based fear can both make you research extensively, move slowly, question your instincts, and seek validation. From the outside, they're nearly indistinguishable. But from the inside, they feel completely different. And understanding that difference is essential for moving forward in your business or career. So today we're going to explore what strategic thinking actually feels like, what trauma responses look like, which specific decisions are most likely to trigger you, and most importantly, how to move forward when you realize you're stuck. Let's get into it. Here's the thing that makes this particularly complicated. Trauma survivors often develop excellent strategic thinking as a survival skill. You might notice that you learn to read situations carefully, anticipate consequences, plan for threats, and think several steps ahead. These skills kept you safe. They're valuable. They're real strategic abilities. But trauma also created patterns of hypervigilance, risk aversion, and freeze responses. And here's where it gets tricky. These patterns can look identical to strategic thinking from the outside. Both strategic caution and trauma-based fear can make you research extensively before deciding, consider worst-case scenarios, move slowly toward commitment, question your instincts, and seek external validation. So you're sitting there stuck on a decision and you genuinely cannot tell. Am I being strategic and careful, or am I frozen in fear? And that confusion itself can become another layer of paralysis. Because if you can't even identify what's happening, how can you address it? The good news is that while these patterns look similar externally, they feel different internally. Your body knows the difference, even when your mind is confused. And there are specific characteristics that can help you distinguish between the two. Let's start by exploring what strategic thinking actually feels like, because understanding this gives you a baseline to compare against. Strategic thinking, even when it's cautious, has certain characteristics that distinguish it from a trauma response. First, it has a clear criteria for decision-making. You might notice that you know what information you need and what will help you decide. You have a framework. You're not just gathering information endlessly. You're gathering specific information that answers specific questions relevant to your decision. For example, if you're deciding whether to raise your prices, strategic thinking asks, what are comparable professionals charging? What's my current profit margin? What would this increase mean for my financial stability? These are answerable questions with clear relevance. Second, strategic thinking moves forward, even if slowly. You gather information, you narrow options, you test assumptions, you move closer to a decision. There's movement, even if it's measured. You're not circling the same thoughts indefinitely, you're progressing through a process. Third, it feels grounded, not panicked. Strategic caution might feel serious or weighty, but it doesn't feel like panic. You're concerned about making the right choice, but you're not dysregulated by the process of choosing. Your body isn't in threat mode while you're thinking. This is a key distinction. You might feel the weight of the decision, but your nervous system isn't activated. Your heart isn't racing. You're not nauseous or tight in your chest. You're present and engaged with the decision, not activated by it. Fourth, strategic thinking can tolerate uncertainty. It acknowledges that you can't know everything and makes peace with deciding based on the best available information. It doesn't require certainty to move forward. It requires sufficient information and acceptable risk levels. Strategic thinkers understand that all decisions involve some uncertainty, and that's okay. The goal is good enough information, not perfect certainty. Fifth, it considers multiple perspectives evenly. You can hold different viewpoints without spiraling. You can weigh pros and cons without catastrophizing. You can see possibilities alongside risks. Your thinking has a range and flexibility. You're not locked into one fear-based narrative. You can genuinely consider different outcomes and possibilities. And finally, strategic thinking leads to action eventually. The goal is to decide and act, not to research forever. Strategic thinkers gather what they need, make the best decisions they can with available information, and move forward. If your decision-making process has these qualities, you're probably being strategic. Trust it. Take your time. Gather what you need, then decide. But if this doesn't sound like your experience, let's look at what trauma response actually looks like. Trauma-based decision paralysis feels distinctly different from strategic thinking. Here are the key characteristics. First, you can't articulate what would help you decide. You just know you're not ready. You can't name what information you need or what would make you feel confident enough to choose. The criteria keep shifting or don't exist at all. You're stuck without knowing what would get you unstuck. This is different from strategic thinking, where you know exactly what questions need answering. In trauma response, the questions themselves are unclear. Second, you're circling the same thoughts endlessly. You're not making progress toward a decision. You're rehashing the same considerations, asking the same questions, reaching the same impasse. Your thinking is a loop, not a process. Nothing new is emerging. You might have had the same internal debate 50 times, and you're no closer to deciding than you were the first time. Third, your body is activated. Your heart races when you think about the decision. You feel nauseous, tight in your chest, or dissociated. Your nervous system is registering threat. The decision itself is triggering you into fight, flight, or freeze mode. This bodily activation is the clearest sign you're in trauma responses rather than in strategic thinking. Your body is telling you this decision feels dangerous at a nervous system level. Fourth, you need certainty that doesn't exist. You can't move forward until you're absolutely certain it's the right choice. But certainty isn't possible, so you're perpetually stuck. You're requiring a guarantee that the future can't provide. Strategic thinkers accept uncertainty. Trauma response demands certainty as a condition of safety, and since certainty is impossible, you remain frozen. Fifth, every option feels dangerous. It's not that you're weighing pros or cons. It's that every possibility your brain generates feels like it will lead to catastrophe. Your threat detection is so sensitive that all paths forward look like paths toward harm. You can't see any safe option because your nervous system is perceiving threat in every direction. Sixth, Asking for opinions makes it worse, not better. You've asked 10 people what they think, and now you have 10 different opinions, and you're more confused than before. External input isn't helping because the problem isn't lack of information. It's that your nervous system is activated and can't process any information clearly. Seventh, you're seeking permission, not advice. What you're really asking people is it okay for me to do this? Or will you protect me if this goes wrong? You're not looking for strategic input. You're looking for someone to take responsibility for the decision so it doesn't feel so dangerous. And finally, you're avoiding the decision entirely. You tell yourself you're still thinking about it, but really you're just not thinking about it. You're distracting yourself, procrastinating, or hoping the decision will somehow make itself. This is freeze response, not strategic delay. If this is what your decision-making process looks like, you're not being strategic. You're dysregulated. And no amount of information gathering is going to help you until you address your nervous system activation. Certain types of decisions are more likely to activate trauma responses, especially for survivors. Understanding which decisions are triggering helps you know what you're actually navigating. Decisions about visibility. Should you do that interview? Launch a public program? Show your face more? These decisions trigger the visibility equals vulnerability equation your nervous system learned. It's not about market strategy. It's about feeling exposed. If your trauma involved being seen and then harmed, visibility decisions will activate your nervous system every time. Decisions about money, pricing, investment in your business, financial commitments. These trigger any trauma-based beliefs about money, scarcity, worthiness, and safety. Your nervous system might be responding to old patterns, not current reality. Money decisions can activate deep survival fears, especially if you've experienced financial instability or had your financial autonomy controlled. Decisions about boundaries. Whether to fire a client, enforce a policy, say no to a request, these trigger any history where boundaries were punished or proved impossible. Your nervous system remembers consequences that might not apply anymore. If setting boundaries in your past led to abandonment, retaliation, or harm, boundary decisions in your business will feel dangerous. Decisions about commitment. Launching something new, signing a lease, committing to a direction, these require believing the future is stable enough to plan for. If your experience is that your future brings crisis, commitment feels dangerous. Trauma survivors often live in perpetual uncertainty about the future. Committing to something requires a sense of safety about what's coming that might not feel available. And decisions about trust. Hiring someone, partnering with someone, delegating, asking for help. These require trusting that people are reliable and safe. If your trauma involved betrayal or harm from people you trusted, these decisions activate old wounds. Recognizing which type of decision is triggering you helps you understand what you're actually navigating. It's not just a business decision. It's a decision that intersects with your trauma history. And that recognition is the first step toward addressing it differently. So what do you do when you realize you're stuck in trauma response, not strategic thinking? Here are specific strategies that can help. First, name what's actually happening. Say to yourself, I'm not gathering more information because I need it. I'm avoiding deciding because this decision is triggering my nervous system. Naming it creates space. This simple act of recognition interrupts the loop. You're no longer pretending you need one more piece of information. You're acknowledging what's actually happening. Second, identify what's being triggered. What is it about this specific decision that feels dangerous? Is it visibility, commitment, money, trust? Get specific about what your nervous system is responding to. You might notice this decision about raising my prices is triggering old beliefs about my worthiness and scarcity. Or this decision about hiring help is triggering trust wounds from past betrayals. This specificity helps you know what you're actually working with. It's not a generic fear, it's a specific trigger related to your specific history. Third, regulate before you decide. You cannot make clear decisions while dysregulated, period. Before you try to decide again, do what helps your nervous system calm. Move your body, talk to someone safe, use your regulation practices. Get yourself to a calmer baseline first. This might mean the decision takes longer, and that's okay. Deciding from a regulated state is more important than deciding quickly. Fourth, set a decision deadline. Trauma responses thrive in open-ended timelines. Set a date by which you'll decide, even if the decision is imperfect. I will decide by Friday creates necessary pressure that interrupts the freeze response. Without a deadline, you can stay frozen indefinitely. With a deadline, you create healthy pressure that moves you forward. Fifth, make the smallest decision possible. If the full decision feels too big, break it down. You don't have to decide whether to launch the whole program. Decide if you'll create an outline. Decide if you'll tell 3 people about it. Make tiny decisions that move you incrementally forward without triggering full panic. Small decisions build momentum and capacity. Each small decision you make from a regulated state strengthens your ability to decide. Sixth, distinguish between reversible and irreversible decisions. Most business decisions are reversible. You can change your pricing, you can pivot your offer, you can close a program that isn't working. Reminding yourself that you can adjust later reduces the stakes and makes deciding less activating. Very few decisions are permanently binding. Most can be modified, adjusted, or completely changed if needed. Seventh, get support from someone who understands. Talk to someone who gets trauma responses, not someone who will just tell you to trust your gut or just do it. Someone who can help you distinguish between your trauma speaking and your intuition speaking. This person can reality check whether the danger you perceive is current or historical. They can help you see clearly when you're stuck in a loop. And finally, take action even if you're not certain. This is hard, but important. You can decide while scared. You can move forward while unsure. Perfect certainty isn't required. Good enough information combined with decision deadline is often enough to choose and act. The goal isn't to never feel stuck. The goal is to recognize when you're stuck in a trauma response and have the tools to move through it instead of staying frozen indefinitely. Before we close, there's one more thing that's important. Recognizing that you're in trauma response doesn't mean your concerns aren't valid. Sometimes your nervous system is activated because there is actual risk. Sometimes what looks like trauma response is actually your body giving you important information about a genuinely bad situation. The question isn't, is my fear rational? The question is, what information is my body trying to give me, and how do I honor that while still making decisions for my business? Your trauma-informed intuition is valuable. It notices things others miss. It protects you from repeating patterns. It flags genuine red flags. You don't want to override that, but you also don't want to let trauma responses block every decision you need to make. There's a middle path where you listen to your nervous system, honor its concerns, and still move forward in your business. This middle path is what we work on in the Resilient Career Academy, developing frameworks for decision-making when your nervous system is activated, learning to distinguish between intuition and trauma responses, and creating approaches that honor both your wisdom and your need to move forward. Decision-making as a trauma survivor entrepreneur is complicated. You're navigating legitimate business strategy while also managing a nervous system that learn to perceive threat in situations others might not. That's genuinely difficult. And it's not something you should have to figure out alone. If you find yourself frozen in decisions more often than you'd like, unable to tell whether you're being strategic or stuck in trauma response, I want you to know you're not alone. And there are skills you can develop to navigate this differently. I'd love to invite you to book a discovery call with me. We can talk about what's happening with your decision making, explore whether working together might be a good fit, and I can share more about how the Resilient Career Academy supports trauma survivors in building clarity around their career and business decisions. You can find the link in the show notes. You deserve to make decisions with clarity instead of constantly second-guessing yourself. Let's build that capacity together. Thank you for watching your Trauma Wise Career Guide. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with another trauma survivor who might need to hear this message. And I'll see you in the next episode. You're not walking this path alone. Every step you take toward a trauma-wise career is an act of courage, and I'm here cheering you on. If today's episode resonated with you, share it with another survivor who needs to hear this message. Together, we're rewriting the rules of career success. Keep rising, keep healing, keep building.